Morning everyone, welcome back to Valley View Flowers this fine morning. Hi everyone, welcome back to the patch. What I wanted to talk about today is my use of perennials in the cut flower garden and why I use them and what I'm using. I use perennials because they're hardy and the extremes of the climate that we live in. So for Australia, it's pretty cold here. We get down to about the -7 degree mark, and the summers are fairly mild, about the high 30s, some days in the low 40s, but not very often. We also experience a dry summer, so we don't get high amounts of rainfall. And here, because we live on a large farm, I don't have a lot of spare water to be looking after precious water-loving annuals. So I tend to stick with perennials. Whilst annuals do have a place in the garden, I think the backbone of this garden is going to be perennials. So this is a new bed that we've just put in. We've put two new beds in just last weekend, and I've started to plant them out. As you see, I do put things in quite small, and the reason for that is I don't have a lot of room in the greenhouse, so I tend to find that they perform better in the ground anyway, so I just plug them in as soon as I think they're able to cope with the conditions. So first up, we have a pastel statice. I do have a lot of statice in the garden. It is a perennial, and the reason I have a lot of it is it's drought hardy and it's easily raised by seed. I also have a little patch here of the salmon Maltese cross, and I've shown that in another video. It's a hardy and easy to grow perennial, and it will handle conditions down to -10 degrees Celsius. It's very water wise. It grows about 75 centimeters high, and it's a perennial, and it comes in other colors. This is the salmon one, but also comes in white and a red, and I have red in the garden. This is Angel's Blush. It's a grey leafed perennial, and this one is a white disc flower with a pink eye in the middle, and it blooms in late spring and summer. I will put pictures up of what these plants look like to help you sort of imagine, because I understand these are small seedlings at the moment. It is tough and frost hardy and handles drought. It likes full sun, again 75 centimeters high, and also comes in a full purple color and a full white. Again, it's another perennial. I do have the purple and white in my garden, but this is an unusual one, so this is why this has been planted. So these little tiny baby seedlings here, this is Linaria, or Mr. Brown's toadflax, and it has cute little spires of white mini snapdragon type flowers on tall slender stems. It's hardy in hot and dry and frost conditions. It's a really tough little perennial and grows to about 75 centimeters high. There's a gap here. I'll have to find something to plug in there. These are Canterbury bells. I've grown these in the garden before, but I haven't used them as a cut flower, so I'm keen to try them. And then we have a Monarda mix. These are really slow growing from seed. They don't look like much, but I've actually been growing these since about February, and they haven't put on much growth, so I thought I'd put them in the ground and see what they did. But this is a mix, a semi-double mix. It has the flowers are lavender, salmon and pink type flowers, and that's also a perennial. In this row we have everlasting daisies, which are a short-lived perennial, and we also have a great burnet, and this has spikes of rich burgundy dainty flowers on long stems. The flowers in midsummer to autumn and about 90 centimeters high. Then we have some more straw flowers here, which are coming along nicely, and some rose statice. This is of course statice again, another great perennial, and this statice has a really rich pink color. Then we have some aqualegias, or some granny's bonnets. These are also I think they're more of a biennial, but these are the double flowering mix. They last well in the vase, and they just have this cute little whimsical effect, I think. And this mix comes in a blue, pink, mauve and white, and these of course flower in spring and summer. And then lastly, up with Bill, we have Feverfew, which again is a perennial. This variety is Golden Ball, and it has yellow pom-pom like flowers. So up at the end of this bed we have Sweet William, which is a biennial, and that's just a mixed colour spring flowering Sweet William. Then down from that we have Snapdragons, which are an annual stock, another annual. And here we have American Beauty Status, which I think I've spoken about in a previous video. It's a perennial, a beautiful rose pink coloured flower, and it thrives in hot conditions. It's quick and easy to grow, and the plant is about 45 to 60 centimetres high, and it flowers in spring and summer. Everything that you'll see here, other than the stuff that's obviously come from a nursery, and I'll point those out, I have either raised from seed, or I have transplanted, or taken cuttings from my own garden. And then lastly we have another Pastel Status. So this status has a great mix of colours, and that's another reason why I like to grow status, because it's just such a range of shades. This one has violet, lavender, blush, rose and mauve shades, so very, very pretty. So up the top of this bed we have a white stock, and there goes Bill again. He's always my little garden companion in the morning. We have a chocolate lace as well. Stock and chocolate lace are both annuals. We have a honeywort, which is an annual. It has unusual blue-purple flowers, and the seeds are quite expensive to purchase, but I find that they self-seed fairly readily in my garden. This is just a yarrow that I've transplanted from my garden, and this is a foxy foxglove, a variety that flowers in its first year. And at the end, this is a bit of speedwell or veronica that I've grown by seed. It's also a perennial. It has blue spikes, this one, of flowers in summer and autumn. It's a great cut flower. It's drought and frost tolerant. It grows to about 80 centimetres high and comes in pink and white as well. So this is one of the first beds that we planted out, and this is just another status. This is the Pacific mix, so this is the brightly coloured status, and as you can see it's really taken off during autumn. So the idea obviously of planting in autumn for me, considering my spring is so long, is just to get these plants established and get their roots down, so when spring comes along and warms up, they'll just really take off. So we've got some more Sweet William here, and a little tiny bit of foxy foxgloves, and of course we've got our billy balls, the Australian native. It really is a hardy perennial to about 50 centimetres high. I'm not sure about its water usage yet. This is the first time I've grown this particular plant. Again, I have grown this from seed. Now this plant here, it may look like nothing at the moment, but it will actually grow up into big frothy purple flowers, and it's a Brampton verbena. It's really hardy, and unlike other types of verbena, I don't find this one invasive. It does self-seed a little bit, but not to a point where you're having to pull it out everywhere. And I'm thinking this will get a lot taller, but I'm thinking this will be my tough, dry alternative to baby's breath. Again, this is one of the first beds that we created, so everything's going quite well in here, and these are my mini snaps, all in area. Now I did have a few issues with these starting to set flower, so I've just been continuously snapping or pinching those flower heads off. I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do, but we'll see come spring. And I've just got some things down here that I need to plant out this weekend. So of course we've got more stock. So this is a mixed coloured stock. And then we have some lupins. These are a mix of lupins. So lupin is, of course, it's a legume, so it fixes nitrogen in the soil. So it's also handy to have as a cover crop. But it is a perennial. It does like full sun, but the problem I find with lupins in my climate is it likes a fair bit of water. So we'll just see how this goes for this year. I do grow it in my garden, and I just find in my garden, if I have a good wet spring, then I have beautiful flowers. But if I have a dry spring, it tends to die back. So at the front as well, obviously this plant I have bought from a nursery. It's the Mai Tai GM, and it has gorgeous double salmon pink flowers, fairly long stems for a GM, so able to be used if someone wants to pick it for a vase arrangement. And I'm going to try some different types of GMs, but I've just got that plant for the moment, and I hope to divide that once it gets established. And Lady's Mantle, which of course is another perennial. It makes excellent cut flowers as a filler. It's drought tolerant, and it adds that lime green flavour to the garden. This is a Caryopsis Pavilion Pink. It's just a plant I picked up from the nursery. In general, these plants are good as cut flowers, so I thought I'd give that a go and see what it did. And on the end is just one plant. It's a sea lavender. Again, it's in the statice family. It's a good drought hardy plant, and it's a long-lasting flower. So I've only got one plant of that. Trialing that. If it goes well, hopefully I'll be able to propagate or divide that or grow from seed. I love this time of morning. It's quiet because everyone's still asleep, but also the birds in the morning are just amazing this time of year, and hopefully they're coming through on the video. So in front we've just got some cone flowers or echinacea that I've bought from a nursery, and these are just a white double and a orangey red variety. Hopefully I'll be able to grab some seed and propagate those. I find growing echinacea from seed, they're really, really slow. And I understand that when they eventually flower, they're either 2 to 3 years old. So you're in for the long haul with growing things from seed. And I understand that. And as gardeners, I think we all understand being patient with our plants. You know, we'd like a little bit of instant impact. And I think that's where annuals, of course, have their place. But perennials are there for the long haul. And that's what I like about them. So this is a brown-eyed Susan. This is a mix, and of course brown-eyed Susans are perennials. They grow quite tall, to about 90 centimeters high, and this one is a mix of yellows, mahoganies, bronzes and golds, so that'll be quite nice to see that. I do like the use of orange and yellow in the garden. I think a lot of people poo-poo the use of orange and yellow, but I think it adds a bit of drama to the garden. And the idea of this area is to plant up in blocks of plants to give it a cottagey type feel. And I think I've explained in previous videos that the idea for this space, you know, it's only a very, very new space. We only just started this area in the last 3 or 4 months, is to provide for a U-pick. So I work full time, so I don't have time to, and I don't have the skills, if I'm honest, to create flower bouquets. So the idea is a U-pick sort of situation to bring a little bit of extra income in for the farm. So down here we have Liatris. Now, if I pronounce these plants incorrectly, please excuse me. I don't have any horticultural background or training. I am just a home gardener, so I sometimes mispronounce things. But this is actually a bulb, but I've grown this from seed. This variety is called Rosy Purple, and there's a few different varieties of this plant, and they're really, really, really good cut flowers. They last a long time in the vase, and they've got an unusual spiked shape where the flowers actually start from the top and work their way down, unlike other things like snapdragons and other spike flowers, which usually open from the bottom. So this probably won't flower this year. It'll probably flower next year, but I just think to establish it, and then I'll just wait, and hopefully it likes these conditions. Apparently it's a long-lived bloom, and it flowers in summer and autumn. Here we have some more stalks, and again a bigger patch of the foxy foxgloves, which are a mixed colour. And in the end here, I'm not sure if you can see it, it looks very sad at the moment, but that's actually a Shasta daisy, a double Shasta, and they're really good. They have a long life in the vase, and they're an old-fashioned plant, but they grow 50 centimetres high, and they're really tolerant of frost and drought, and this is a great perennial to have. So these poor little darlings in here, which are very hard to see, are my echinaceas that I have grown from seed. They are really, really slow, and hopefully they will overwinter. I'm a bit worried that they're too small to survive our frost, but I think I'm just going to see. I've got some more in the greenhouse, so if these fail, I do have a backup plan. These ones, I can't remember what mix of colours they are, but it doesn't really matter to me. I think all echinaceas are beautiful with or without their petals. Just the seed head alone provides value, I think, in the garden. Up next to that is some pearl yarrow. So I've grown yarrow before, and it's a great drought hardy perennial. But this one has small clusters of white pom-pom type flowers and grows about 60 centimetres. Then we have straw flowers again. They are a short-lived perennial, so they hopefully may come back. I've not grown straw flowers before, so we'll see what they do. So this is a chrysanthemum. It's called May Queen. It's a single daisy-like flower, and it really is a great hardy cut flower. It grows to about 75 centimetres high, and I'll see if I can zoom in. We've had some issues with rats, and you can see I use cattle tags. They're just recycled cattle tags for identifying some of my perennials in the garden, and we've had an issue with rats. They seem to chew on the plastic and rip the tags out, and they also dig up my plants. This is a summer pastel. It's another yarrow, again a perennial, and up the end we have just the the scarlet larkspur. I've had huge issues with growing this. I don't know whether I was trying the seed too early, because I know it is a cold loving plant, so I'm going to try sowing it again as we head into winter. So that's it for the perennials that I have in the beds so far. I have a lot more that I've grown from seed that are still establishing. Perennials are a little bit slow to propagate, so a little bit of patience is required. Now, if anyone's looking for some great cut flower seed, I can't recommend Seedscape seeds enough. They're online. Have a look at them. They have such a wonderful variety, really good growing notes on how to grow these perennials from seed. The variety is amazing. I have never seen some of these perennials before, so it's worth having a look. They are a little bit expensive. Sometimes you don't get a lot of seed in the packet, but I assume that's got a lot to do with harvesting and the viability of the seed itself. But definitely worth doing, definitely worth having a go. It's really exciting to grow these things and see them sprouting in the greenhouse. These are my peonies. They're looking a little bit sad, but we're in the end of autumn, so I expect that. I'm not sure whether it has a little bit to do with my transplanting them at this time, but we will see. And of course down here, which I'm excited to see, the flowers on are my monster foxgloves, which I posted about in a previous video. So that'll be interesting to see what sort of flowers come from that. But thank you so much for joining me, and coming along with these little videos and learning with me as I learn on how to post these vlogs. So I really appreciate all your support. Thank you. Bye.